Hello and welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have you joining us from all across the globe today. Hopefully, you're all settled in, maybe with some Mediterranean themed food and drinks. I can see on the chat that we've got people in different zones with different meals going on, but you might need a snack by the end of this. In any case, we hope you're ready to join us on a virtual adventure to some of our favourite culinary hotspots in Europe. I'm Jay. I'm the marketing director at Explore, and I'll be your host for the next hour. So, what do we have in store for you today? For anyone who's joining us for the first time, we'll begin with a quick introduction to who we are and what we do, followed by a word about our foundation. Then I'll be joined by three lovely colleagues who'll share stories from their destinations, offer insider tips on what to do, see, and most importantly, taste, and give you a behind the scenes look at what it's like to experience these places firsthand. We'll wrap things up with a live Q&A session, an exclusive special offer, and a prize draw. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping bits for those of you joining us for the first time. You are all automatically on mute, but we would love you to get involved using the chat and the Q&A features. In the chat, let us know which place in Europe's your top on your list, or if you've travelled with Explore before, or if you've got a favourite dish or drink you think we should all try. We love hearing from you. If you've got questions, please pop them into the Q&A section, not into the chat. We've got a team of experts ready behind the scenes to answer them as we go. We'll also save some questions for the live session at the end. If you need to step away early, don't worry. We're recording today's event. You'll get an email later this week with a link to the recording. Now, let's talk about who we are. Explore is a small group adventure operator offering trips across more than 100 countries, from classic culture tours, walking and cycling holidays, to wildlife safaris and family-focused departures. Our trips are designed for travellers looking for meaningful and immersive experiences. Our latest product line is Explore Upgraded. It's everything you already love about an Explore adventure, but with an extra touch of comfort. Think upgraded hotel stays, added ease, and a little indulgence after a full day of exploring a new place. So, why would you travel with us? We think it's all about how we do things a little differently. Travel isn't just ticking boxes to us. We want you to uncover hidden gems and believe in truly experiencing a destination, not just observing it. That means meaningful moments and spontaneous detours that can't be planned or replicated. Our tour leaders are at the heart of what we do. They use their local knowledge and strong community ties to unlock experiences you'd never find in a guidebook. And of course, they're there to make sure every detail runs smoothly from start to finish. Our small group size, with just 11 people on average, is perfect if you're looking to meet fellow curious travellers, but also dive deeper into the heart of a place without feeling like part of a crowd. And finally, sustainability is at the core of everything we do. And we only work with local partners who share our values and who are also committed to making a positive impact everywhere we take our travellers. We're excited to have received FIFO's Platinum Trusted Service Award once again this year, with customer ratings consistently over 4.5 out of 5. And we're a proud B Corp, which leads me neatly on to the next topic. I wanted to share something that runs through all of Explore's adventures. The chances are that when you travel, some of your strongest memories are linked to the people you meet along the way, the connections that you made, which take you right back to that holiday. It's the locals that share their food, their culture, their landscapes with us that make our trips really special. That's what Explore trips are all about, the local, eating in local restaurants, meeting the community, tasting local wine, beer, spirits, whatever takes your fancy. We're proud that our trips champion the local and put money back into the local economy. And the Explore Foundation is how we give back that little extra to the destinations we visit. The Foundation is a registered charity run by a board of independent trustees. And when you travel on an Explore tour, we donate on your behalf. The money raised supports grassroots initiatives that empower people and create opportunities. So far, we've provided access to free education for teens in Laos. We've helped keep elephants in their natural habitat in Thailand, and we've installed solar panels in India, allowing a weaving cooperative to focus on running their business rather than worrying about keeping the lights on. So if you're curious and would like to see further projects that your holiday supports, take a look at the foundation website, theexplore.foundation, for more details. And now let's meet the team. I am absolutely thrilled to be joined today by three colleagues, Ali and Tom from our product team and Alfred from our office in Canada. Not only will they be sharing their thoughts and stories during the presentation, but they're also part of the team answering your questions behind the scenes throughout the event. And we'll be bringing them back for our live Q&A at the end, so you'll have the chance to hear even more from them then too. Food adventures, wow. Some of my favorite. Food is how we connect, but it's also what differentiates us. It reflects history, culture, and climate, and it's simply one of the most delicious ways to uncover a place. That's exactly what Explore's food adventures are built around. You still get to see the exciting places we'd cover on our discovery or active tours, but throughout the itinerary, food leads the way. We're not talking about gourmet restaurant experiences, but the authentic and homemade food, which we think is the true luxury. Eat where the locals eat, learning from the people that have been growing the ingredients and cooking the recipes for generations, and getting hands-on by tasting and cooking yourself. So today we're shining a spotlight on three of those experiences, covering some of Europe's Mediterranean and culinary big hitters. Two walking and wine trips, one through Portugal and Spain, the other through Tuscany and Italy, plus our classic food adventure in France. Now, I'm very excited to hand over to Tom, who'll get us started in Spain and Portugal.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here to talk about a tour that's been going from strength to strength in recent years, really tapping into that concept that to discover a country or a region, you really need to taste it as well as to see it. As you'll see, walks and wine tasting in Spain and Portugal, as we flick on to look at the map, takes us all the way through two main spots, but in between comes up with what our local partner describes as a little known world apart. The Douro River is like a common thread that runs across it. You can just about see the border here between Portugal and Spain. And you'll see that, yes, whilst we take in some of the main highlights, we have a beautifully balanced itinerary with walking days typically ranging from gentle 2-hour strolls covering about 6 kilometers to longer days, which are around 11 kilometers or about 4 hours of walking. We've got a private minibus to take us between regions. We've got time to explore on foot, but of course we've also got time to pick the best scenic trail sections and avoid sort of heavily transited roads. Our groups always talk about how much they love the balance, the contrast between the peaceful guided hikes and the fresh air, but then having time to explore some of these historic towns and better known places. Like Madrid, as you'll see, is our starting point, which is a real culinary melting pot. Obviously, we're talking about walking and wines here, but we start with a lot of food. Madrid, over the centuries, has had people migrating from all over Spain, every single corner, and they bring their regional recipes, traditions, and ingredients. So whether or not you're looking for a simple, centuries-old tavern or high-end modern dining, Madrid has got everything. But one of the things that's most surprising, I think, to first-time visitors is the seafood. Even though Madrid sits right in the landlocked heart of the country, it's far from the ocean. It's home to one of the largest and finest fish markets in the world. It's got some fantastic logistics behind it. You get fresh catches from the Atlantic and Mediterranean ports. They get rushed up to the capital overnight, and people can enjoy really fresh seafood, some of the freshest in Europe, right here in the center of Spain. We get a walking tour as we arrive. As you'll see on the next slide, we've got the Palacio Real, the Plaza Mayor, the Mercado de San Miguel, which is like a huge covered food market where we try some snacks before we get the free afternoon to explore. So again, we're exploring on foot, but using our taste buds essentially. And here you can see some of my personal recommendations of something to try for a late lunch. And it's most definitely not an onion ring baguette, which some people have suggested when they see these photos. It's actually a bocadillo de calamares, which is deep fried calamari rings in a crusty baguette, which is absolutely fantastic when it's done perfectly with tender squid, crisp batter, absolutely fantastic. Obviously washed down with a lovely cold beer or whatever your choice is there. It's a really fantastic Madrilen experience. And you can also see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the huevos rotos, so literally broken eggs. So served over fried local potatoes. Another great example of something that seems really simple, but it's just done so well. Particularly when you've been wandering around this beautiful city, it's fantastic to spend a bit of time just filling your palate with these things. And once we're done in Madrid, we transfer across to Segovia. But before we get there, we spend a few hours walking in the Guadarrama National Park, which is a fantastic different scenery, limestone cliffs, all sorts of things. Again, you wouldn't expect. Most people expect perhaps just the coastal side of Spain, which is well known in Britain, but there's so much more than that. And then we arrive in Segovia itself, which of course is really well known for this fantastic Roman aqueduct, but it's got a really unique food history as well, because in this high altitude region, it can get quite cold in winter. So the culinary tradition here has evolved to focus on rich, hearty dishes to keep you warm, essentially. It's not so much about delicate small plates, it's more old school wood-fired ovens, time-tested recipes to keep everyone warm. So as you'll see, although we don't visit in winter, therefore we shouldn't need warming up after exploring the city, you can imagine people sort of sitting in the Alcazar that you can see here, one of the great halls, hunched over one of the classic dishes of roast lamb, something like that, trying to keep warm. So you've really got a huge variety of things. Every time you move to a different area, you get a different type of cuisine coming in. And all the while you're seeing the architecture and the cities and cultures that have grown up around it. Now, as we move on from here, you'll have noticed that, of course, there's the word wine in the title. And it's at this point in the trip where this really comes in. We've got another fantastic walk in the canyons of the Duraton Valley that you can see on the right-hand side. Again, it's really incredible landscape that is not, I guess, so associated with Spain, sun-drenched olive trees and so on, but it's got such a huge variety here. And we continue on through to Penafiel, which is right in the heart of the Ribera del Duero wine region. So, as I said, this is where we get into essentially wine. We get into some drinks, and over the next few days, we have a couple of really unique visits and tastings. So we've tried really hard to find things that are quite different. So when we get on to Peñafiel, you can see a few photos from some of our local visits that we do. So as we move forward, we can see the Bodega La Almilla, which is on the left-hand side at the bottom. You can see it's actually run by a lady who originally had a career in audiovisual in TV and cinema, but actually gave all of that up, came over here and started her kind of passion project with her family. And she really comes at it from a wine teller, not winemaker kind of approach, really wants to share the heritage, show people what it's like. It's one of those amazing things where it doesn't look like a lot from the outside, but then you go in and you've just treated to these stories and the history and the winemaking in the region. You got on the right-hand side there Zamora, which is a place we visit, which again is not so much on the tourist trail, but beautiful little houses, really specific to this area of Spain. And we also, the other couple that you can see in the photo are a couple of former scientists who gave up the lab coats and now actually run authentic cheese production, goat's cheese. So it's really different. It's not quite what you'd expect. It's these hidden corners that people don't know about that really make the trip. You have these small, intimate experiences which are fantastic. And as we move on from here, again, we're combining fantastic walks in these amazing landscapes with the culture. So we spent 3 nights in Fermacell, which is really off the beaten track. It's kind of high above the canyons. Again, you can see from the picture on the right here, you get these amazing sweeping views and towering cliff sides. But then again, uh, you get these towns which are steeped in history, really showing the cultures that have formed them over the years and very much a part of the landscape. And as we move on and move towards the border with Portugal and we cross over, this is a huge highlight of the trip, actually. We take this hour and a half long train journey, which snakes its way through the Douro Valley to Pesa de Aragua. There aren't really many, it's not a huge road network here. So you get on the train and you get these kind of front row seats to natural scenery, historic winelands of northern Portugal. And it's completely authentic. And it really sets the stage for the second part of our adventure as we move across. So once we arrive, we make our way to the village of Lamego. And we go on this urban walking tour through the historic centre. You can see some of the Baroque influences in some of these photos on the left-hand side of the screen. And then in the evening, it's worth mentioning here, we stay at the Hotel Lamego, which is fantastic. It's this premium property that sits within its own working orchard and vineyard. It's got a heated outdoor pool, relaxing spa, terrace restaurant. It's fantastic. So get a chance to have had this exploration, relax with a drink in the evening, and the next morning we head out to visit a locally run estate. And again, we're hearing about how they produce the port wine in this region. Because it's worth mentioning, a lot of people, when they think about Portugal and wine, they think of Vinho Verde, but this isn't the area for that, essentially. Our route stays inland along the Douro River, which is very much about kind of red wines and ports and that kind of thing, which, yes, there are whites and tawny ports, but it's a different feel because of the soil, and it produces something completely different. So once we've left there, of course, we make our way to Porto, which is our final destination, which is Portugal's second city. Quite small, compact, so you can walk around it. We have a local guide who takes us around the historic centre, a real labyrinth of cobbled streets. We have this curated food tour, and we try traditional Portuguese snacks, so smoky sausage, codfish cakes, or a pastel de nata if you've got a sweet tooth. And then we have a full day free to kind of complete it. And again, it's a lovely way to intersperse this free time so that we can then relax as we like. You can take a boat cruise down the river, do the Six Bridges boat cruise, or you can sit at one of the waterfront cafes in the medieval quarter and have a drink, a little pingado, a small coffee, which I love, and watch the world go by. And which kind of brings us to the end of the journey. You can see on the recap here just the practical details. It's an immersive itinerary. It runs through the prime travel windows of May, June, September, October. We've got some hand-picked lovely hotels, including that gorgeous premium night in the Lamego winelands. So if you're looking to combine active days on the trail with some fantastic tastes of Iberia, this is one of the best trips you can do. So with that said, I think it's now time to switch countries, and I'll hand over to my colleague Alison, who's going to take us through our fantastic Taste of Southern France trip.
What a fantastic journey through Spain and Portugal. I do think a calamari sandwich is definitely on my list now of things to try when I'm next in that area. I want to take you now on a little tour through France. And France is very well known for its strong culinary traditions and specialities, Michelin stars, all of those wonderful things. So France is a very strong destination for a food tour. The trip I'm going to talk you through focuses on southern France. And there's lots of things to try. There's pastries, cheeses, hearty, comforting dishes, lots of wine, but there's also medieval towns to explore as well. So it's interesting on a culinary front, but also the journey between these destinations is an absolute delight. So the trip starts in Bordeaux. And going there, for me, this was the first time actually that I'd visited Bordeaux, and it's such a lovely city. On the first day, we met with the tour leader, and we went to this historic building you can see on the left. And we went up to the first floor where he'd reserved that part of the restaurant for us and laid out a map and went through the route and everything that we were going to be experiencing that week during our tour. Of course, we had wine and nibbles whilst we were doing that. And it was a lovely way to understand the itinerary, meet everybody for the first time and get a feel for where we are and what we were about to embark on together. Then that was followed by an orientation walk with the tour leader around Bordeaux, and we took in some of the main sites. And then after that, we all went out for dinner together. And this was a fantastic experience. It was really one of those restaurants that you wouldn't find by yourself. You wouldn't find it in a guidebook. He took us down this little alleyway through a very unassuming door, and we opened it and, weren't really expecting much. And it was a packed out restaurant full of locals. Very simple menu of seasonal traditional dishes, regional dishes, and we had an absolute feast. It was wonderful and a great way to start our food adventure in France. The next day, we moved on to Arcachon. So this is very much a seafood-themed day, and we took the train out to Arcachon. Trains in France are very easy to use, very comfortable, and Arcachon is out on the Atlantic coast. So we took the train out there and then went and had a bit of a wander around the bay, first of all, and we could see all the oyster farms, and we had a look at the area in general, and it was nice being out on the coast. And then we went into the market, and the market was just chaos, like lots of hustle and bustle, assault of the senses in the best possible way. It was a delight. Lots of people, lots of smells, and lots of things going on. And we got to try a lot of the fresh seafood that was on offer at all these stalls. And we basically sat down at little wooden chairs, little wooden tables. So the tour leader went off, picked a few things from the market stalls and brought them back to us to try. And I tried oysters. Now, this is the second time I've ever had oysters. And the first time I didn't particularly like them. And I thought, well, I'm not really that fussed. I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy this part of the experience. But I did enjoy them. They were wonderful. And I'm not sure how much of that was because they were very fresh oysters, they're meant to be the best in the whole of France, and how much of it was partly due to the atmosphere and where we were and where I was actually having this tasting. But the whole thing came together as such a wonderful, memorable experience. Then we have some free time to wander around by ourselves, buy some souvenirs, go to the beach if you want, have a look around, and then we regrouped again and we had a seafood-themed lunch a bit later on, a late lunch with some wine before we took the train back to Bordeaux. Then in Bordeaux in the afternoon, before we all dispersed, we came out of the train station, we went to a very famous pastry shop. And what they serve there is something called a Culinary, which is this picture here you can see. And it's more of a set custard than a pastry, but it was something that the monks developed many, 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 many years ago. And it was a way of using up leftover ingredients, and they soaked the whole thing in rum. And so we tried that. It's a local delicacy, and then headed off into Bordeaux to explore the city. We include a travel pass for Bordeaux, which covers the water taxis, the trains, the trams, so you can explore every single corner of the city. But it's also a great city to walk around, so you don't have to get involved in public transport if you don't want to, but that option is there. And yes, you can enjoy the rest of your afternoon in Bordeaux. The next day had a very wine-focused theme to it. And again, we take the train and we head out into Saint-Emilion, which really is the heart of wine region and in this part of southern France. And we were met at the station by a lovely guy who has a chateau there. And we went around and toured the vineyards, looking at the different ones, the different sizes, the very expensive chateau estates and the less so. And he explained to us viticulture and pest control, pruning, grape varieties, and all the seasons, what that means and what happens in the different seasons when it comes to wine production. So it was really interesting tour. And then we went on to his wine estate. And if you've done a wine tour before, you'll know that sometimes these are can be quite a large, conveyor belt of people coming through a wine estate, lots of coaches turning up, that sort of thing. And this could not be the polar opposite to that. Like, it was incredible. It was a very small estate. There was just us there. It was a family-run operation. And we went in there and met the whole family, learned who did what part of the process, and had what felt like a very intimate experience. And it was yeah, an absolute delight. Obviously, the trip there ends with a wine tasting, which you can see the top left picture there. And we went through and sampled a few of the wines that they have, and a few of the group were yeah, very pleased with all of that and ended up buying and having crates shipped home. But yes, a lovely day in wine country. We then travel off to the town of Sant'Emilion, which is a medieval town, and have a little lunch break there, and then take the train back to Sant'Emilion. And one thing the tour leader did, because actually as well as wine, this area is known for its macarons, and the tour leader bought some macarons from here, and we had those on the train on the way back, which was a nice way to soak up some of the wine. And yeah, so that was a fantastic trip out into wine country. Next, the tour moves on to Sarlat, and Sarlat is famous for duck and truffles. We go there on market day, and markets are wonderful in France and a great way to see a lot of local produce. And we had a walk around with the tour leader through all the markets, and we stopped at various stalls. We met with the stall holders. They told us what they produced, how they made it, and we got to sample things like the duck sausage, fresh breads, cheeses, and everything else that you can imagine as well. But it was nice to have the contact with the stall holder and learn about their particular delicacy that they were bringing into this market. So I'd say we grazed our way around the market. And to be fair, it's worth mentioning now that you never get hungry on this tour. There's always something to be eating or drinking. And then we finished that day with a duck dinner. Like I said, it's a tradition in the area. Duck is the main meat that's eaten. So we went to a small family-run restaurant, and they specialised in different duck dishes, and we had a choice from the menu there. And yes, got to try another regional dish. Then the next day for me, this was an unexpected highlight. We went truffle hunting. Truffles are a type of fungi, so they grow underground, typically near roots of certain trees like oak and hazel. And they're highly prized in the culinary world. They're expensive, they've got a strong odour and taste. And I think what makes it more special is that there's only a few places in the world that they grow. So it really does feel like a rare experience that you're taking part in. So we met the guide here on the right, a guy called Adrian, and his little dog Punty, and we went for a walk around their estate, and he'd send Punty off. He'd say, share, Punty, and he'd run off and go and look for the truffles. And then he'd get, if he was excitedly digging under a tree, then Adrian would go over and intervene, and he'd reward Punty with a slice of cheese, which distracted him, and then he was able to uncover the truffle. And we then got to experience that, see the truffle, and there was truffle tasting as well. And I think what we've actually done is a little video of part of the experience of our day. So let's see if we can share that with you and help bring that day to life a little bit for you. So from there we moved on to Rocamadour and then finally our last destination, Carcassonne. So Rocamadour is a famous hillside town, and its culinary claim is for a goat's cheese, which has the same name as the town. And we went to a goat's cheese producer and learned about the different ages of the cheese and got to taste and sample those. And it was quite interesting to see how the flavour developed through the aging process. And then we have a tour of Rocamadour itself with a local guide, and there you get to learn a bit more about this medieval village. And it was a pilgrimage destination for many years. It's where people go to see the Black Madonna and the shrine associated with Saint Amador. And the local guide really brought all the history to life and gave us quite a fascinating look into what life was like then and how the town has evolved and developed over the years. And then next we're off to Carcassonne, and Carcassonne is a World Heritage Site. It's recognised for its historic fortress. It's got a double-walled fortress and an awful lot of towers, and it's been restored quite extensively during the 19th century. So it dates back to Roman times, and some of this restoration has been quite controversial, but because of that, what we have now is the most complete medieval fortification anywhere in the world. So it's not quite, it's very spectacular, and somewhere where you can spend a lot of time wandering around these narrow side streets, getting lost and finding yourself again. It's a fascinating place to explore. We had free time to explore the town, and then we went off to a local bar and tried the local drink, which is called Blanquet de Luma, and it's a sparkling wine. It's very similar to Cremant, so it's crisp and refreshing, but it's one of the oldest sparkling wines in the world, and it's got history dating back several centuries. It predates wines and like champagne. And it was, again, a great way to end the day. We had a few bubbles. It was lovely. And then my last highlight that I want to mention is the cookery lesson. So on this trip, you have an included cookery lesson, and we went to a restaurant where we met Rick, the guy here on the left, the chef, and he's very well known in the area, and he's known for his seasonal menus. He only uses seasonal ingredients, and a lot of foraging as well. So we went out into his garden and foraged some flowers and herbs and things, which helped finish the dishes that we'd made. But as a team, we made 3 different dishes. And when one was complete, we then went into the restaurant and ate it. So a bit like a starter, a main, and a dessert. And we all had various roles. So somebody is peeling and chopping while somebody else is searing a meat in a pan or stirring a risotto or whatever, but it all came together and we all made 3 delightful dishes. And that, again, that was a real highlight. It was really interesting to learn from Rick, and it was a really nice experience as a group to try some more of these flavors that we'd learned so much about over the week and see how the preparation side of things works. And now, you've got a bit of a skill to go home with as well. You can recreate those dishes, which I have tried to do. And yes, it was a delight. All of the courses were paired with wine, and yes, it was quite a giggle. So enjoyed that very much. And then what else I want to mention is before you leave this part of France, you must try a cassoulet, which is the pot of stew on the left-hand side, which is it was originally a peasant's dish, and it's a hearty stew of meats and beans, and it's cooked in the oven for a very long time. And the picture on the right is a chocolatine. And you'll have to go on this trip to find out why it's not called a pain au chocolat. I'm not going to spoil that surprise. But if you do go to southern France and you see one of those and you ask for a pain au chocolat, do be prepared to pay an extra euro. It's kind of like a local tax if you're obviously a tourist if you've not called it a chocolatine. So a little bit of fun, but you'll have to go on the tour to find out more about that. So the accommodation we use on this trip is wonderful. Great locations. The picture on the right is the hotel in Bordeaux, which is just outside the main gate into the old town. So a great location. Top left is the swimming pool from the hotel in Sarlat. So when you've got downtime, that's a wonderful, refreshing retreat. And the breakfast buffets. I've done many trips in Europe, and normally I'm very underwhelmed by breakfast. And in France and southern France, this could not have been further from the truth. So if you feel like you've not eaten enough on this trip, which is impossible, you can always pick up something extra from the breakfast buffet. So if you feel like you've missed out on a slice of cheese or some cured meat or a fresh pastry that you haven't tried yet, you could always find it on the breakfast buffet. So that's it for me in southern France. It's a week-long trip. We travel there between April and June and September and October. We just avoid the summer when it just gets a bit too hot. But yes, it's an absolute delight. I recommend you all add that one to your list of adventures. So I will now hand you over to Alfred, that's going to take you on a journey through Tuscany.
Thanks, Allie. What a great dog that was. I wish I had a truffle hunting dog. Hi, everyone. My name's Alfred, and I had the pleasure of going on the Tuscany wine and walking tour last year. I took my mother with me, so definitely gained some brownie points, although I'm probably still behind my brother on that. Today, I just want to tell you 3 things that I loved about this trip. And I think this presentation will be great for anyone who's considering Italy for a future trip, or anyone that is just a fan of drinking wine and eating great food while looking at spectacular views. All right, before I get into the things I loved, I just want to show you kind of the route we take. We start off in Pisa and then we end off in Florence. And along the way, we hit places like Siena and Pienza. One thing I did like about this trip was you were never traveling for too long. Um, you go town to town by bus, and you're never on a bus for more than an hour and a half, which is great because if you're on vacation, you want to minimize your travel time. You want to be just spending your time outside exploring. So I really like that about the trip. Pisa and Florence are great starting and endpoints, especially for anyone who wants to extend their trip within Italy. Italy has a very robust train system, so it's very easy to travel around the country. For example, if you're in Florence, you can get to Naples in 3 hours. There's 30 plus trains a day. If you want to go to Milan, that's only 2 hours. That's 50 trains a day. And if you want to get to Rome, it's only an hour and a half, and there's 70 plus trains per day. So if you're in Italy and you have the time, highly suggest seeing a lot of the country because it's so easy to get around. And why not do a back-to-back explore trip? I believe we have a discount for that if you do back-to-back trips. All right, going to the first thing I loved about this trip, I had so much wine and pasta, and somehow I never had to loosen my belt. So let's start with the food. So these are some of the things I ate while I was on the trip. As you can see, such wide variety. I think the thing I liked the most was that the food was very, very fresh. This is because the restaurants in Italy place a really strong emphasis on seasonality, which means they change their menu based on the ingredients that are freshest at that time of year. I went in October, so a lot of dishes. I had a lot of dishes with porcini mushrooms, truffle. I probably had like a truffle pasta every single day. I was hooked. If you're into game meats, boar was really in season in October, and olive oil is super fresh. So we would sometimes just get bread and drizzle olive oil on it, and it's so basic but so delicious, so good. Great with a glass of wine. Also, what was great too, my mom's not a huge eater, so she would eat like half her meal and then give me her other half. So I got to experience a lot of food. This is one of my favorite restaurants that we visited while on this trip. So really interesting. The first floor, the butcher shop, and then the second floor, the restaurant. So you get taken up to the second floor. They sit you down. They take your drink order, and then you walk back downstairs to the butcher shop, and you tell them what cut of meat you want. He cuts it for you, wraps it up, and then you take it back up to your seat, and the waiter or waitress takes it from you and asks you how you want it cooked. So that was a super interesting experience, and the food was really good. And we got to eat at so many great restaurants like this because our guide would message our WhatsApp group with 7 or 8 different restaurant recommendations every single day. She's Italian, she's from Italy, knew the region really well. So she would recommend a bunch of restaurants that the locals love. And it was great because these were restaurants that we wouldn't have found on our own. So a lot of hidden gem restaurants. So you can't talk about the food in Italy without talking about the wine in Italy. We're in Tuscany, so we have to drink the wine in the region, right? So a lot of Brunellos, a lot of Chiantis. When we were feeling fancy, a lot of Chianti Classicos, and they tasted even better when you're looking out at a gorgeous view. My favorite thing probably in this trip is just having a glass of wine at the end of the day and watching the sunset. Made the wine taste even better. So on this trip, you would go to 2 different wineries. These pictures are from a winery in Castellina in Chianti. It was really great. We got to sample a bunch of different wines, and it's paired with a lot of different meats and cheeses and fruits, all very fresh. Our host at the winery was very knowledgeable, answered all our questions, and then we actually got a little tour of the winery, and they talked about the history of the winery, their winemaking process. So really good behind the scenes look at the winemaking process, which all the wine connoisseurs on our trip absolutely loved. A little pro tip: if you do have if you do try some wine that you love, a lot of these wineries will ship bottles back home to you. You pay a little bit in shipping charges, and then you pay a little customs tax as well. But some bottles are really hard to find, so highly recommend shipping back 6, 12, 24 bottles back home. The more you ship, the cheaper it is. And this is the reason why my belt loop stayed the same. This is a walking trip as well, so almost every day you're walking between 10 and 14 kilometers. And you would often walk to the winery, which was a nice treat at the end of the walk. But you definitely worked up an appetite, and you never felt guilty about having that extra piece of dessert because you burned so many calories walking in the morning. I would also say I never slept better in my life. You're walking all day, and then you gorge yourself on pasta and wine. I slept like a baby every night. I was out. The second thing I loved about this trip was finding the peace and quiet in a country famous for its crowds, right? So this picture is how I imagined Italy before going, right? You're pushing your way through huge crowds, people bumping into you in every direction, trying to keep up with the group. You look away, they're gone, the streets are packed, the sidewalks are packed, everyone's moving, everyone's talking, everyone's in your way. It's like complete chaos, right? And it's Italy, there's going to be moments of that, but what I loved about this trip specifically is there were so many moments on the trip that was more like this, and we're going to show a quick video. This is how you start your mornings. You start with your mornings with a walk. You grab a cappuccino or an espresso. The air is fresh and clean. Landscape is completely open. Only sounds were the birds and the wind. There'd be times where we'd be walking, and for hours we didn't see anyone else. And once again, the guide knows the area so well, so she's able to take us on routes where it's not populated by a lot of tourists. So yes, of course, you go to Italy, there can be the hustle and bustle, but it's such a nice balance when you start your day. Just walking through the Tuscan countryside, and it's so peaceful, and it's a great way to start your day. And the final thing I loved about this trip, it was a walking tour that never repeated itself, right? So yes, every day you're walking, you're drinking wine, but there's so many different things that I got to do on this trip that weren't just walking and wine. We got to shop like locals at the Siena weekly market. We got to take in the beautiful architecture of all the cathedrals. We got to watch the sunset over Florence. We got to share stories over dinner with the people in our group, and it was just such nice variety. I think one of the reasons why we got so much in too was because our hotels were super close by to the city centers. So you'd walk out, and within 5 minutes, you're in the heart of the action, which was really, really great. So that was a very nice surprise. Going in, I was like, oh, I'm just going to be walking the whole time. But I got in so much different, I got in so many different experiences. So overall, my mom and I had a great time on this trip. It was a great bonding experience for us. I also loved getting to eat our way through Italy together because, to be honest, when I was a kid, I was a super picky eater, and I probably held her back from trying a lot of different foods. So this trip felt like I was finally making up for that. This is a picture of me as a kid. I was such a picky eater. When I ate a hot dog, I wouldn't even eat the bun. So there's a picture of my mom holding a hot dog and a napkin for me to eat. That's how much of a picky eater I was. So it's shocking that we got to go to Italy and enjoy great food together. If you're curious and want to learn more about this trip, feel free to go to our website, exploreworldwide.com. The trip code is LTY for this trip. And if you want to talk to someone, I highly encourage you calling into our customer service line. Our team is so friendly, so knowledgeable, and they're more than happy to help you. Thanks so much for your time, and I'm going to pass it back to Jay now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ali, Alfred, and Tom. What an amazing set of adventures. I have to I feel like a little like I've got the wrong drinking vessel in front of me with all those wonderful wonderful wine tastings, but never mind, maybe later. I hope you're all feeling really inspired and are ready to start planning your next food adventure. We don't have time to dive into these tonight, but there's just some trips that I wanted to tell you a little bit more about. Georgia, I think, is one of travel's best kept secrets, and that extends to the plate. One of the world's oldest wine cultures, a cuisine that sits at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, and flavors that you simply won't find anywhere else. That Taste of Georgia trip is a real cracker. And the one next to it, the Taste of Italy, walking in Puglia, is one that I did with my mum, funnily enough, May last year. We did it early in May, and the wildflowers in Puglia, which is the heel of Italy, were just absolutely stunning. The world has been falling in love with Tuscany and Rome, but I think Puglia has been quietly doing its own thing, being beautiful. Real simple, honest, extraordinary food rooted in the land and the sea. And then the last of these three extra trips I want to talk about is a taste of Turkey, Istanbul to Cappadocia. The Turkey's got a food culture with incredible depth and range, shaped by centuries of empire, trade, and tradition, from meze tables of Istanbul to the slow-cooked flavors of Cappadocia. It's a beautiful trip and definitely worth a look if you're trying to decide which food adventure to go for. And just to note, we always get a few questions about it. I'm vegetarian. If you're a fellow veggie, it's worth having a look at our vegetarian friendly tours blog. But also, if you want to check whether a trip is right for you, is going to work for you, the one in Puglia was brilliant for me. I had no trouble at all getting fabulous vegetarian food. If you want to check whether a trip is right for you, just call our team and have a chat, and they will be able to tell you. So if you're ready to book your next holiday, we'd love to help make it happen. You can chat with the friendly team anytime or connect through your trusted travel agent. We're here to answer your questions and make your next travel dream a reality. And still to come, we've had a great flow of questions coming through, some amazing comments as well in the chat about sheep's eyeballs on pizza and all sorts that I've been watching. It's wonderful. And lots of people who've done our trips during the last few decades, which is really nice to see. The team have been working hard in the background answering all the questions, but we've saved a few of them to talk about live. And then after that, we're going to pick one lucky person at random to win our exciting prize draw. Right now, let's welcome back Ali, Alfred and Tom to answer some of your questions. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Right.
Hello.
Tom, one of the questions for you was, how have the wine tastings changed your opinion on wines at home? Has it changed what you look for in a wine?
That's a really good question. It often does. I often come back from a trip having fallen in love with whatever I've discovered there, like coming back from Dublin the first time you've ever had Guinness and suddenly it's the best thing ever. What's fantastic about it is if you do it in and around the summer, because then you come back to the UK and you think, oh, the benefit of like a really cold port. Like I used to think that port was something you'd have at the end after the cheese of a very formal dinner, but actually no, it's complete opposite there, particularly if you can get something really fresh when you've been out in the for walking around. It's a little bit hot, it's lovely and refreshing, but there's way more than just one sort of type of red port, which was the only thing I'd heard of. So no, it definitely changed my opinion on that sort of thing, and it moved it from something I thought was a little bit niche to something that I think is fantastic. It's an excellent sort of everyday drink you can have. I can always find an excuse to have some more ports.
That's really cool. No, I think of port as an after dinner thing as well. So that's really interesting. Thank you. Ali, did the history and culture that you learnt about kind of tie into the food experiences on your trip?
Yes, definitely. They're very heavily intertwined. I don't think you can learn about one without the other. And like most countries, a lot of the culture is built on the cuisine and how that's evolved over time. So much like the peasant dish of cassoulet. It's so interlinked that you can't come away only learning about the food and not the history. It's both. Oh, and I spotted it in a question actually, if I could just add this in, asking if there was if you had time to go to the beach in Arcachon, and that's one thing that I did when I was there. So you've got plenty of time after the market visit and the tastings before you have lunch, and you can explore the town and do whatever you want with that time. And a few of us did go down to the beach and have a walk and a little bit of a swim, and then came back for lunch. And likewise, after lunch, you can take a train back to Bordeaux whenever you want, if that's how you would prefer to spend spend your afternoon. So yes, you can do what suits you there.
It's nice to have a bit of flexibility, isn't it, with those
Yeah.
freer bits of the day. Thank you for sharing that. Alfred, I'm going to ask you this question, but I might answer it myself as well. It says, how
Please.
did you enjoy combining walking with wine? Were you woozy walking every day? I wasn't. We drank lots of wine on the trip in Puglia and ate lots of food, but kind of like you said, I just felt like I deserved those calories at the end of every day. And we weren't throwing the wine back super fast, but we were tasting it, and it was very delicious. How did you feel? Had you ever done a walking and wine trip before, and how did you feel it worked?
No, this is the first time. It was amazing. It's broken up really well because the first half of your day is where you do the majority of your walking, and then you get to sit down at the winery, kick your feet up, have a glass of wine, and oftentimes the second half of the day was free time. So if you wanted to keep walking, you felt good enough to walk, you could go out and explore, or you could go to a different winery or sit out at a different patio and keep drinking. So it was broken up nicely. You do the hard work, you do the exercise, and then you get your reward of the wine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly how I felt. Like I deserved it. It was lovely.
yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us again, guys, and thank you for your talks today. Now, our prize draw. One lucky winner will get a food gift box to shorten the waiting time until your next holiday. We've selected one of you at random, and it's Mags Rivet. Congratulations, Mags. We'll be in touch via email to get your prize sorted. So the next event, if you enjoyed this digital event and would like to see more, we'd love to have you. The next adventure, digital adventure, is on the 28th of July, which will be extra special as we're celebrating our 45th birthday with an online quiz, kind of pub quiz style. So get your friends and family together for an hour, packed with rounds on world travel, history, and a few questions only true Explore fans will know the answers to. Whether you're a seasoned explorer or a curious armchair traveller, dust off your thinking cap and settle in for a great evening. Sign up now and make sure you don't miss it. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, getting involved in the Q&A and the chat, which has been so lively and so lovely to watch. It's been a real pleasure to see the conversations and the excitement for our tours. Keep an eye on your inbox over the next few days for an email with the event recording and a quick feedback survey. We'd love to hear what you think. I hope you enjoyed your journey. Until next time, goodbye and happy travels.